Hello and welcome to our training on supported decision-making. Supported decision-making is an alternative to guardianship that helps protect people's rights and helps them keep more in control of their lives. As you know from our training on Introduction to Guardianship, guardianship is a legal intervention where a court takes away a person's right to make some or all decision and gives that right to someone else. So as we discuss supported decision-making, there are things we have to keep in mind, and they're what I call stupid questions. The first stupid question, are rights important? Of course they're important. Every person listening to this training knows how important rights are. We've been taught how important rights are since we first went into grade school. There are some rights that are so important, they're what the Declaration of Independence calls inalienable, like the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that we all have as citizens. So another stupid question is, who has those rights? Well, you just heard me say, people do. Citizens do. Every American has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And are people with disabilities and older adults people? Of course they are. So people with disabilities, older adults, just like every citizen, they have those rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that we all hold so dear. So let me ask you another stupid question. Are those rights that we all hold so dear worth anything if you can't exercise them? If there's someone there who can say that the life you live is what I'm going to let you live, the liberty you exercise is what I'm going to permit you to exercise, and if the happiness you pursue is what I say it is, are those rights worth anything? Because, as we know, guardianship takes away rights. It takes away the right to make decisions. And guardianship, as we learned from the prior training, is 2,000 years old. And it started at a time when it was okay to call people with disabilities idiots and lunatics and feeble-minded and take away their right to make decisions just because they had disabilities or just because they had limitations. Well, guardianship, it's not wrong, it's not evil. In fact, it comes with the best of intentions. But as I've told audiences across the country, whenever someone says to you, relax, it's for your own good, run away. The Supreme Court knew that. This decision on your screen said the greatest dangers to liberty are when we mean well. And for 2,000 years, guardianship has meant well. And as we know, guardianship comes from a time when people really meant well, so well, in fact, that the most common type of guardianship is what's called full or plenary guardianship. And in that type of guardianship, the court takes away the person's rights to make every single decision and gives them to someone else. And that's used in about 90% of cases, according to one study. And by every decision, I mean every decision. A plenary guardian decides who you see, where you live, whether you can vote or work or marry or even get health care. So are those questions I asked really so stupid? Are your rights worth anything if you're not allowed to exercise them? Let me tell you about a young woman who I had the honor to meet and represent. Her name is Jenny Hatch. Jenny's a 30-year-old woman now. She has Down syndrome. She graduated high school. She lived in her own apartment. She was employed at a regular job, making regular wages, paying regular taxes, had volunteered on many political campaigns. But because Jenny had Down syndrome, when she was 29 years old, her parents asked the court to make them her guardians, her plenary guardians. And when I met Jenny in February of 2013, she was already under what the court called a temporary guardianship. And what that meant for Jenny was that she went from her own apartment to a segregated group home. She lost her cell phone. Her laptop was taken away from her. Her Facebook password was changed. And instead of working the job she loved, making regular wages and paying regular taxes, she went to a sheltered workshop where, as she says, as she puts it, she snapped snaps all day. And after working more or less full time, She made less than $1,000 over 8 months. And even worse, the guardians controlled all access to her. You actually had to fill out a permission slip just to see Jenny. And this was someone who was well known in her community. In fact, the first time I saw Jenny, I guess I technically broke and entered because I would not fill out the permission slip. And I had to ask the court to give me the right to see my own client without having to fill out a permission slip. Now remember we talked about rights? On your screen right now, you'll see 4 parts of 4 separate paragraphs from the order putting Jenny in a temporary guardianship. And I like to say these are her rights going, going, gone. So going, here are 4 paragraphs giving the guardians the right to choose where Jenny lived. Whether it was a hospital, a nursing home, or an institution, they could decide where Jenny lived. And Jenny's rights kept going. In this screen, we see 3 separate paragraphs from Jenny's temporary guardianship order that gave the guardians the right to choose what type of medical care Jenny got or whether she got any medical care. Look at that last paragraph. They had the power to refuse or withdraw consent to any type of medical care, including but not limited to artificial respiration and CPR. And then Jenny's rights were gone. This is the last paragraph in the order. And I can't think of any rights that are left based upon what this took away. The guardians could decide who could see Jenny, what type of health and safety services she got, whether she got an education, and whether she got any type of treatment. And why did that happen to Jenny? Because a psychologist testified that Jenny needs assistance to make decisions about health care. She needs assistance to decide where she'll live and things like that. She needs someone to guide her and give her assistance. And when that psychologist was asked what would be best for Jenny, the psychologist said this, that it would be beneficial to her, that she have the opportunity to have individuals around her who support and love her, who give her the assistance she needs. So all that means is that Jenny is a person who needs support. She needs assistance. She needs assistance to understand legal issues and medical issues. She needs assistance in her day-to-day life and to understand monetary issues. In other words, that means Jenny Hatch is a person. We're all Jenny Hatch. Is there a single person listening to this presentation who doesn't need assistance to make medical decisions, who doesn't need assistance to make financial or legal decisions? We're all Jenny Hatch. Let's think about it this way. How do you make decisions? Maybe you go to friends or family members. If you have a friend who's a doctor or a sister who is an accountant, you go to them to ask about health and financial matters. Maybe you do research or consult experts or ask for second opinions or get help that you need to make your best decisions. The only difference between you and Jenny Hatch is that when you do that, you're being smart. You're being wise to ask for help. When Jenny Hatch, or a person with a disability, or an older American, or someone with any type of limitations, admits to having a difficulty making decisions, we all assume they can't make any decisions, and we take away their right to make every decision. Because we're afraid, because we have the best of intentions for those persons, because we want to protect them from making mistakes. We don't want people with disabilities or older Americans to make bad decisions. We don't want them to sign something they shouldn't sign, or buy something they shouldn't buy, or know someone they shouldn't know. Well, if you're listening to this out there, I want you to raise your hand if you've signed a lease or closed on a mortgage. Now answer this question. Did you read every single word of those contracts? Or did you just sign where your broker or the landlord told you to sign? If you're like most of us, you just signed, and that's a bad decision. Where's your guardian? Raise your hand if you've ever had surgery or consented to a medical procedure or put your life in the hands of a doctor you just met. Did you read every word of those informed consent forms, or did you just sign where the doctor or the nurse told you to sign? If you're like the vast majority of people, you just signed, and that's a bad decision. Where's your guardian? Raise your hand if you ever bought something off the television, like a miracle weight loss device or a pasta maker at 2 in the morning. Those are bad decisions. Now raise your hand if you've ever made a mistake and learned from it. If you've had a bad relationship and learned from it how to have a good one. If you've bought a bad product and learned how to buy a good one from it. You learned from your errors. You became a better decision maker from the mistakes you made. Why, I ask you, do we not give people with disabilities or older Americans or people with challenges the same opportunity to learn from mistakes, to learn from their experiences? What we had to tell the court in Jenny's case is that guardianship wasn't needed for her, that there's another option. There is a less restrictive alternative that can help Jenny make decisions for herself without the need to take away her rights. And as we know from the introduction to guardianship training on this website, guardianship is only appropriate even if a person has difficulty making decisions if there are no other options available that would be less restrictive. And supported decision making is a classic less restrictive alternative to guardianship, because what it does is it gives people the help they need and want to understand the situations and choices they face so they can make their own decisions. Or as I put it, it's decision making just like you and me. It gives people with disabilities, older Americans, and people with challenges in making decisions the same type of assistance you and I get when we do research, when we go to experts, when we ask for second opinions. Supported decision-making, therefore, is nothing other than decision-making. And just like you and me, Jenny's been doing it for years. We saw tons of evidence in her case that she had been making her own decisions for years. Jenny was able to sign a 40-page power of attorney, make the decision to sign that for herself and sign it herself. And when I asked, how can you say she could do that when you say she can't make decisions? The answer was they explained it to her. They helped her understand it, that she could ask questions. The lawyer went over it with her, and they would not let Jenny sign that document until they were sure she understood it. And I said, that's supported decision-making. Jenny was the main part of her Medicaid waiver individual service plan. And when I said, how could she have been that if you say she can't make decisions? They said they explained the plan to her. They talked to her about it. They read it to her when she needed it read to her. And I said, that's supported decision-making. And there was decision after decision just like that that Jenny had made with support, with the support that you and I get when we make decisions. And in the end, after 6 days of trial, Jenny got justice. That's her picture right there. She got to go home. She got to live where she wanted to live. And today, Jenny still lives where she wants to live. She works where she wants to work. She has the friends she wants to have, and she is a sought-after speaker across the country. You can learn a lot about her in the Stories of Supported Decision-Making section of this website. You can see excerpts from her trial, some of the many articles written about her, and you can see a video of Jenny giving a speech. All because Jenny was given the opportunity to make her own decisions, because the court said that supported decision-making was an appropriate alternative for Jenny to use. But why did Jenny get justice? Well, I can give you several reasons, the first of which is she's awesome. Jenny's a very strong and smart and determined young woman, but that's not the only reason. Is Jenny had support. She had friends who supported her. She had national organizations like the American Civil Liberties Union, like the Bazelon Center for Mental Health Law. She had multiple experts who came out to offer their assistance to her. She's a very telegenic young woman, so there was lots of media attention for her. She had a judge who was willing to listen and learn and rule in her favor. And do you know what that means? It means that Jenny got lucky. If you take away any of those things, I believe that Jenny would still be under a guardianship. She would still be in a group home. She would still be working in a sheltered workshop. you take away any of the things that Jenny did for herself or that others gave her support in doing, Jenny doesn't get justice at all. So the real lesson from Jenny's case is that your rights should never depend on your luck. They should never depend on who you know. It should always be the rule that you have your rights, that your rights stay with you, that you don't have them taken away. It should never be the exception, because out there are so many Jennies and just not enough justice. I want you to think about the last 20 years. Think about where you were in 1995, if you're older like me and can remember 1995. Think about what the world was like. There were toys like Furbies and clothing like fanny packs. Music was grunge. And the height of technology was a system where you could use a dial-up modem in the hopes of hearing the magic words, "You've got mail." Well, 20 years since then, we have more technology and more supports and more services and more opportunities for more people with disabilities and older Americans to live more independently than ever before. But here's a stupid question. Given all of those amazing things, why have the number of people under guardianship tripled since 1995? How could we have come so far in 20 years and have an additional 1 million people under guardianship, a lost generation? Well, one of the reasons is that we mean well. We're still trying to protect people. And I can tell you from experience, the typical advice that parents get when their child with a disability turns 18 is still get guardianship and get SSI. They hear that from teachers and lawyers and doctors and social workers. Well, you have the opportunity, if you've listened to this training, to tell them otherwise, that there are other options, that rights don't have to be taken away, so that Jenny Hatch isn't the only one who gets justice, so that we don't lose another 1 million people to guardianship in the next 20 years. Because studies have shown, study after study by people much smarter than me, have shown that people with disabilities who have more control over their lives, or what people call self-determination, are healthier, they're more independent, they're more a part of their communities, they're better employed, and they're better able to avoid and resist abuse. Let's focus on that last one for a second, because guardianship's always been there, because people think it makes other people safer. Well, there's one very important study that found that women with intellectual disabilities who had more self-determination, more control over their lives, were better able to recognize situations where they could get abused, and therefore better able to avoid and resist abuse. In other words, if you want people safe, don't put them into a guardianship. So let's remember a few things. Supported decision-making is something we do every day, and that's the most important thing to remember. Everyone listening to this has engaged in supported decision-making at some point, probably today. And supported decision-making recognizes that we all have abilities, but we also all have limitations. We all have wants, but we all have needs for help and assistance. So what I say to remember, most importantly of all, is this. Supported decision-making means that everyone has the right to make choices, no matter what assistance we might need to make them. And some people may need more assistance than others, or different assistance than others. Even with a need for assistance, everyone has the right to make choices. And it's legal. The UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities says every person is born with capacity and legal authority to make decisions, and it's government's responsibility to make sure that they're able to exercise their right to make those decisions. And every state in this country has a guardianship law that says that guardianship is only appropriate if there are no less restrictive alternatives. Well, what is supported decision-making other than a less restrictive alternative? Because it gives people with disabilities what they need to exercise their right to make choices. It gives older adults what they need and want to protect their right to make choices. It gives all of us an appropriate opportunity to exercise our right to make choices. Supported decision-making is a mindset. It's not a method. I don't have an instruction manual for how to do it. There is no one way to do supported decision-making in the same way that there is no one way to make decisions. There is no one time to start it or one type of person that uses it best. What you have to do is understand and commit that every person has the right to make choices, and you'll understand that supported decision-making is simply what I call a paradigm, not a process. Supported decision-making requires nothing more or less than people acknowledging and understanding that people with disabilities and older adults have the right to make choices. They don't have to have a guardian except in the most extreme of situations. And once you commit and acknowledge that, there is only one question left. What support do people need to make decisions? Not can they make decisions, not do they have the right to make decisions, but what support do they need to make decisions? And examples are all around us. The student-led IEP, where professionals and educators and parents and advocates are supposed to come together and help a student plan their education for the year and make the best possible educational choices. That's supported decision-making. Person-centered planning in healthcare or estate planning or end-of-life planning, where a person is supposed to understand their options with the help of professionals and family members. That is supported decision-making. It's why I call supported decision-making the right to make choices, because the support we need empowers us to make the choices we have to make. It enables us to make the choices we need and want to make. In fact, every single right that we think is important, every single right, like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, is protected and empowered and enabled by supported decision-making. Think about it. How can you have the right to community integration if there is someone who has the power to say you will live where I tell you to live? How can you have the right to work where you want to work when there is someone with the power to say, I do not want you to work? How can you have the freedom of speech or the freedom of association if there is someone with the power to say, I don't want you seeing anyone other than I want you to see? So supported decision-making protects our rights. It allows us to exercise our rights. So how do we make this work? What are the steps necessary to make supported decision-making a reality? Well, I believe we should start early, or start now. If you are a person with a disability, if you are an older adult, think to yourself, what do I need to make decisions? How do I make decisions? And who can help me? Who can give me the support that I need? We all need a little bit of support. If you're a parent of a child with disabilities, ensure that the child is involved in every decision that's made, especially in special education. Have that child at the IEP meeting as soon as possible and try every possible tool in the toolbox. We all make decisions in different ways. Help your child develop your child's decision-making voice to come to expect and demand that his or her right to make choices will be respected and acknowledged and protected. Formalize it. While this is not necessary, I think it is good practice is to have supported decision-making agreements. And you'll find some forms on this website where you can say, these are the decisions I want support in making. These are the people I want to support me. This is how I want them to support me. and have those documents so that you can give them to teachers and doctors and people who will have to respect your right to make choices. So you can say to them, I want these people involved in my decision-making process. Think about when you go to the doctor. Odds are that every time you go to the doctor, you have to sign a release form called a HIPAA release that gives the doctor the right to share your medical information with someone, or lets you say you don't want the doctor to share any medical information with anybody. Well, now think about that form. Only change share medical information to share medical information and medical decision making. It's the same form with a couple of extra words put in to make it clear to the doctor that you want the person supporting you to be part of your decision-making team. You can get a copy of that and bring it every time you go to the doctor and say, Doctor, this is my supporter. We're going to work together on this. Encourage it. We recommend that you support organizations and legislations that further supported decision-making, that recognize it as a legal method, just like powers of attorney and advance directives, that develop model forms like you'll find on this website, that protect people who respect and rely on their right to make choices. And remember it. If you can do this, the rest is easy. Remember that every person is a part of every decision about his or her life. If you can remember that, the rest flows right from there. If you can remember that every person has the right to make choices, and even though some people might need more support, might need more time, might need more help, they still have the right to make choices just like you and me. If you can remember that, the rest is easy. And because we all need support, ask for it. There's several places you can find it. That's my name on the bottom. That's my email address. Please feel free to contact me personally if you have any questions. Or I recommend you join Supported Decision Making Interactive, our dedicated listserv where you can ask questions and receive answers from national experts and other people just like you. Thank you so much for your time today.